Thank you all for joining us for Turning Anger into Action Coalition Building, how to bridge the gap between established and marginalized communities. My name is Lauren Peirce, Marketing Director for Sandy Spring Museum. During these very difficult times that we have all been experiencing as individuals and as a country, the museum as an organization too has been experiencing challenges, grappling with the role that we play in a system that benefits some at the expense of others. Sandy Spring Museum stands firmly with those fighting against the racism, structural disadvantages, and systemic injustice that have oppressed Black people in the United States for hundreds of years. The United States was built on discriminatory practices that were codified in our legal system, beginning with the dehumanization of Native people, followed by enslaving Black people in bondage as property for the financial benefit of those of white European ancestry. Sandy Spring Museum stands on land that was once a plantation where Black people were enslaved. We recognize that the museum is the beneficiary of a historically unjust system. We're committed to working towards dismantling systems that perpetuate racism and discrimination in order to build a just, equal society. Tonight's program is one of the many programs we will be hosting that challenge the dominant narrative. With that, I would like to turn it over to our partners, Isaac and Kevin, with Brothers with Books.
Thank you, Lauren. I'm Kevin.
I'm Isaac, and we are the co-founders of Brothers with Books. Tonight's conversation is one we've been anticipating for 5 weeks. When we, as the planning committee, when we first started this, the goal was to build a stronger coalition in Montgomery County. Not under the flagship of Brothers with Books, but under individuals who know the importance of respecting their neighbors, loving their neighbors, and just valuing the people around them. And tonight, one topic or one word that's going to come up many times, I imagine, is intersectionality. And we wanted to just frame the conversation by giving you all some background on what intersectionality is. Intersectionality was coined by Kimberly Crenshaw in 1989. And today it is defined as a theoretical framework for understanding how aspects of a person's social and political identities might combine to create unique modes of discrimination and privilege. Intersectionality identifies advantages and disadvantages that are felt by people due to a combination of factors. We thought it was very, very important for us to frame that conversation, and we're going to drop that definition in the chat by reminding you all that when we say coalition building, you have to understand what intersectionality is and understand how we are all affected in different ways, but in similar ways as well.
So as we're going to be talking about our coalition and community as a whole, we're also going to be mentioning about our community right now in this Zoom call. So it was really appropriate that we keep our background noise to a minimum, keep your cameras off, and right now is a good chance to go ahead and mute your microphones if it's not muted already. And the chat is yours to use. Make sure that you're asking really great questions for our panelists. Right now is a great opportunity to pick the minds of experts, pick the minds of great people that we have here within our community within Montgomery County. So
tonight we have a moderator that Kevin and I have a great deal of respect for as an organizer, as a peer, as a leader. Luz Chavez Gonzales is someone who is an activist of United We Dream, but also an activist in our community. Someone that if you don't know, you should get to know because they help make our community stronger. And tonight we're so fortunate to have her here, and she can tell you a little bit more about what she does, not just for Gaithersburg, not just for Montgomery County, but really our world. So Luz, we're turning it over to you.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Isaac. And thank you everyone here, Sandy Spring Museum, for having me. So a little background about myself. My name is Luz Chavez. I am undocumented, unafraid, and here to stay. My story begins at the age of 4 when I migrated to the United States at the age of, from Bolivia. It was very politically, there was a political turmoil going on at the time when I came to this country. And, I lived my life growing up, going to school here. And it wasn't until my junior year of high school when I found out that I was undocumented. I felt alone in this fight. I didn't know that there was a community behind me that was going to advocate for my rights, that was going to advocate for the rights of my parents and my livelihood. And that's when I joined United We Dream and many immigrant rights organizations in this area and across the country. Since then, I mobilized communities. I pushed for many local campaigns here in Gaithersburg with the Freedom City Ordinance, as well as different parts of the DMV area. But my work is also tied into national work with United We Dream, where we push for legislative change in Congress for dreamers and for our families, calling for the defunding of ICE and CBP. And right now, touching base on the moment that we're in right now with Black Lives Matter, and tying into the conversation that there are undocumented immigrants that are from African countries and from the Caribbean and from Asian American countries. We're trying to tie into, you know, the term intersectionality, because at the end of the day, our collective liberation is tied into the fact that we're not free until we're all free. And yeah, and my building is not towards just myself. My leadership building is towards the youth that will come after me to change this world, per se. And I'd like to ask the other panelists to introduce themselves as well. And it would start with Yi.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Shen. I'm the Asian liaison in Montgomery County. I'm from the Office of Community Partnerships under the County Executive's Office. I came to the United States when I was 8 years old, so I'm considered a generation 1.5, which is a unique position because I don't identify as the first generation, nor do I identify as the second generation. I'm always an outcast from both generations, but I understand both generations really well and where they're coming from. My background, I graduated law school in 2011. And then I didn't want to practice law. So I got a job at the governor's office, Governor O'Malley's office, and I was his director for Asian Pacific American Affairs Commission and the South Asian American Affairs Commission. Worked for the governor for 5 years. And then when Governor Hogan came, he appointed his own people, and I went to go work for Senator Kristen Holland as a constituent services. Oh boy, I think it's constituent services. I can't remember the title. Constituent services. And then after that, I went to work for Councilmember Sidney Katz in Montgomery County, District 3. And currently I am working with the county executive. And I'm very happy to be here tonight to discuss this very important topic. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Yi. Could I get Josephine to introduce themselves?
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. And my name is Josephine Garnem. I am originally from Sierra Leone. I'm a proud Montgomery County resident, and I've had over 25 years of international nonprofit experience in Afghanistan, Pakistan, Africa, in Haiti, and was very proud to come to the United States, where I live with my family. And I now am with also, like you, with the Office of Community Partnerships. I'm a program manager at the Gilchrist Immigrant Resource Center. So trying to hone in all my international experience to put that out to my community here in the United States and give back both here and abroad. And so thank you for having me. And it's quite an honor to be with all of you here today.
Thank you so much. And could I get Mohamed?
Hello, everyone. My name is Mohamed Abubakr. I'm the president and co-founder of the African Middle Eastern Leadership Project. I'm originally from Sudan and been in the nonprofit/human rights sector since the age of 14 years old, and worked across multiple conflict zones across North Africa and the Middle East, and starting in Sudan, in Darfur. That was my entry to the organized activism space, and moved here to the United States in 2016 with very little choice involved in the matter. And yeah, shortly after my arrival, we launched the African Middle Eastern Leadership Project. an organization that works with human rights defenders and civic activists across Africa and the Middle East, as well as those of African and Middle Eastern descent here in the United States. With each region has its own programming, with the aim to collectively push together for more open, more inclusive societies, wherever they might be.
Thank you so much, Mohamed. And let's guide this conversation and start it. Josephine, the Gilchrist Immigrant Resource Center is so vital to our county residents. Can you share why you think the services you provide can help bring our community together?
Yes, thank you for asking that. So we see ourselves at the Gilchrist Immigrant Resource Center as one of Montgomery County's welcoming phases. We look very much like a nonprofit, even though we are a county government agency. So we're part of the Montgomery County government. And we are very diverse in our own staffing. So you have to lead by example, right? So all our staff are from all over. We speak over 14 different languages. We're a very small team, but we offer education services. The center is like a learning center. We're an information and referral service. So literally everything you want to know about resources that are in Montgomery County and around, we are happy to serve. We can serve anyone in any language. So we feel like we strengthen Montgomery County's, we are a way of connecting our diverse communities. People come to us because, again, a lot of people from immigrant communities are very scared of government. And so when they come to us, they don't feel like they're coming to government. They feel like they're coming into a safe and welcoming space. They feel like they're coming into a space that understands them, that speaks their language. In many ways, we're very culturally sensitive. We understand our communities, and we provide civic engagement as well. We encourage a lot of advocacy, and we work very closely with other county agencies in helping them understand the needs of the community and how to better serve them.
Thank you so much, Josephine. And I can totally relate to that. I remember when I was younger, my parents would always go there to get referrals to different programs that, you guys offered. So I really thank you guys for the service that you guys provide for our community. Mohamed, how do activists you train build a stronger coalition with people from different backgrounds? And what can our community learn from that?
Quite fortunate to be working with some of the most incredible people across Africa and the Middle East, and there is certainly a lot to learn from those activists. In the past few years, we got to work with activists from 32 countries, able to build coalition where you can least expect it. For an activist working on LGBT rights issues, for example, in Uganda, to find commonality and common ground to build on with the church community to push, for that particular human rights issue is the unthinkable, but yet they do it every day. And the same they do among each other across borders. They leverage each other's strength and bring each other's experiences and voice to their own struggle. It's a beautiful thing to see, something that I wish to see a lot more of here in the United States, to see more of that knowledge and know-how transfer happen in this country.
Thank you so much, and thank you for creating that space for people to feel community and being able to advocate for directly impacted folks, and building that change and creating that that space. The recent rise of xenophobia felt by our local Asian communities is alarming, and everyone should stand against it. In your opinion, how has the Asian community responded?
Quarantine started in middle of March. There has been on average, about 100 cases of hate crimes and hate bias incidents in the United States. On July 5th, there was a report that says that there's 800 plus cases in California alone. Montgomery County has not seen that much in terms of hate bias incidents, but there's an issue with the Asian community underreporting these type of hate crimes, hate bias incidents. And the Asian community, in response to this terrifying time, have started to buy guns for the first time. There was a 300% increase at the start of the quarantine of Asian community buying guns. And then what they're doing is they're forming online SOS groups. So basically, if I live within 5 miles of a zip code, I will sign up for this group saying, if I ever type in SOS and my address, you people that you know will show up and help respond to these type of racists and incidents like that. So the Office of Community Partnership has asked the Chief Marcus Jones and his staff to show up to a lot of these community town halls to discuss, number one, please call the police if there's any kind of racist incidents that's happening. Number two, practice gun safety, and please don't show up with guns, because if police respond to incidents and everybody has a gun, then how would they know which person is the perpetrator and which person is a victim? So it's a terrifying time for the Asian community, and you know, it is what it is at present, and we are doing our best to work with the Asian community.
Thank you so much, He. Definitely guiding that conversation. We're about our surroundings and you know, advocating for communities that are targeted right now. Now we'd like to jump into the question and answer section of our conversation. I'd like to open the question and answer by asking, what does intersectionality mean to the three of you? And beyond protesting, how else can we show up for one another? And this could be from any of you guys.
So I've always said that racism in this country is cyclical. It repeats itself all the time in history. Even if we just look at the beginning of, let's just say looking at 2000, right? There was, after 9/11, the Muslim community and the Sikh community were targeted by racism. Then we had Ebola, the African community were targeted by racism, the Black community were targeted by racism, Zika virus, West Nile. You know, anytime there's some kind of disease or virus or something, the minority community gets targeted. Then the current president, when he ran on his platform, he wanted to build a wall. He's saying that Mexico is bringing in people who are rapists, killers, etc. And so the Latino community started getting attacked by racists. Now that COVID-19 is here, the Asian community is suffering from you know, hate crimes and hate bias incidents. So in order to stop this cycle, what we need to do is form alliances. We need to so for example, JCRC, the Jewish Council on, I'm sorry, I don't remember the acronym, but the Jewish Council wrote a letter in support and in defense of the Asian community when the news started to report that Asians are started to see hate crimes against the community. So we need to form those type of alliances with all the minority groups. A lot of times hate is being taught at home because people don't understand or they don't know better, and they teach their children, you know, hey, don't go talk to certain groups, don't don't interact with certain groups. So for example, when I first came to the United States, my parents, they don't know anything about the United States. They only know what they know from watching the news in China. And of course, media at the time, they were portraying African Americans, they were portraying Latinos as, you know, bad, they're just not portraying them as in a good light like the white community. So when we first came to the United States, my parents were saying, hey, look, you can interact with anyone you want, as long as they're white or Asian. So, you know, obviously I'm a disobedient child. And I started saying, hey, so you're telling me there's no killers in China, or there's no rapists, or there's no crime in China? And they're like, well, no, that's not true. So I was saying, well, why is it that I'm only safe with Asians and white people? And they had nothing to say. So I was able to interact with people of all races, and I get to learn from people of all races. And that's what we need to do to build coalition, is to learn about each other. And that's how we can come together and fight against hate. And that's my opinion.
I'll say a few words. Yi, thank you so much for sharing that personal story with us. And that's the thing with intersectionality, right? It is so complex, it is so layered, that when you finally start thinking you've got it all figured out, you realize that you're only touching the surface. Yi was talking earlier about Ebola, when Ebola started. Of course, highly concentrated in West Africa, and yet folks in Kenya and other places were being discriminated against. Somebody coming from Europe, coming into America, was told, go back home, you're bringing in disease. So I think what Kimberly was trying to, and continues to try to do, is telling us that we cannot be comfortable with the idea that we understand the issue of racism, of discrimination, of sexism, homophobia, all of these things, because it's so layered. So she gives an example about standing in an intersection. You know, for example, you know, for me as an African woman, African American woman, when you talk about racism, you only hear about men, Black African American men. It is only recently you start hearing the say her name. You know, we start knowing, even for myself, there's so many of these women that went through police violence. Nobody has heard about them. Nobody knows their name. Nobody knows their stories. And it really marginalizes the woman's story, you know, in this, the African American woman's story. Then you come and then you put the fact that I am an African immigrant woman, which means, again, I cannot speak on behalf of African Americans and say that I know their story, I know the trauma, I know the systematic racism that has been happening within the US for so long. And then you come again and you talk about my immigration status. So there are so many layers. Then you talk about my, my accent. I have been in places where the minute I start talking, people change the tone of their voice and speak to me in the most simplistic of terms. And I'm thinking, why are you talking to me like that? I actually am very well educated and I speak about 5 languages. And so everything changes. And so intersectionality is so complex. The minute we think we've got it all figured out, I mean, think about it. In DC right now, we have food deserts. What are we doing about that? We are talking about equity in Montgomery County right now. Are we looking at equity among not just Black and white? Are we looking at equity for immigrants? Are we looking at equity for those with different genders who identify as LGBTQ? Are we looking at equity in different layers that intersectionality can hide in, you know? So you think, oh, we've got it all figured out. Now we're putting equity in all our terms. We're doing trainings in our offices because we want to talk about, you know, what has happened with African American men. But are you talking about what is happening to Asians right now, to American Asians? Are you talking about, you know, how many more women and how many more immigrant women or African American women are in your workplace? So just because you're saying, well, I am diverse, you know, I have a Black male, and I have a white woman. So I'm very, there's no feminism here, there's no racism here, but you don't get it then. So it's holding each other accountable every single day. We cannot say we've got it all figured out. And we also have to talk about, are we auditing institutions that, are we auditing workplaces who are claiming to be diverse? How are they addressing these issues? Are we looking at our own narrative? I am very fortunate. Even I, as an African American now, find myself very privileged in many ways. My children, when COVID happened and all schools were shut down, I was lucky enough to have internet in my home. I was lucky enough to have the flexibility from my work to be able to work from home and make sure that my kids are able to study and study online without any issues. That is not the case in many of the families, especially our immigrant and African American families, who right now do not even have computers in their houses. So there is so much that is happening. We have to keep holding ourselves accountable. And as Yi is saying, we have to work together as a coalition because this is not alone. And I feel the millennials are doing such an incredible job right now in coming together. So when you see these protests out there, when you see these marches, when you see systematic changes that are happening, it's been driven by people from all different backgrounds. You cannot just say, well, this is happening only to Asian Americans, so it's not my problem, I cannot get involved. Because it is going to happen to us sooner or later when an issue similar to that comes up that is specific to our community. So I'm sorry, I'm so passionate about this, I can keep going on. I'll give Mohamed some time to speak as well.
Actually, I wish you would speak forever. You covered a lot of what I wanted to say, and I blew my mind as you were talking. Thank you so much for that, Josephine. No, I mean, to me, keeping a struggle truly intersectional is operating from a place where you, truly understand the complexity of your own identity and all the layers and all the things that make you who you are, the identities that put you in a place of disprivilege and the ones that put you in a place of privilege. And then be an ally, a true ally to those with you in the struggle, because over and over, as Josephine noted, like young people are doing so much better at this in coming together, in showing up for each other. But we have seen a lot of cases where we're not really true allies of each other. We saw the accidental, sexism, the accidental, from well-intended people, the accidental racism and the casual anti-Semitism over and over in these spaces. And it comes from not knowing the other enough that we are showing up for, not knowing all that the scars they carry, what they are sensitive to, what they are not. And we walk in to the space with, again, the best of intention, but not the best of understanding of the other and what they would like us to say on their behalf. True and effective intersectional struggle begins with understanding the other truly on all levels. And before you understand others, you gotta understand who you are. And I think taking just a step back and analyzing, all the layers that make up the onion that we are, and spending time pondering all our identities, our cumulative identities, is certainly a worthy investment and a really good use of our times, because it was mentioned earlier that, I'm a Black person and she's a Black person and Isaac is a Black person, but we don't all have the same understanding of what that means. And spending time on what it means to be who you are, all of it, all the experiences, is certainly something we ought to be doing a lot more of. It will certainly enhance our collective action for betterment of this society that we live in.
Thank you so much, Mohammed. And yes, like I said in the beginning, our collective liberation doesn't just start with one community, it starts with all. And, you know, listening to the other side and being able to, you know, work towards and advocate for their changes, you know, in my sense and where I've organized in this space. Um, you know, we have to be mindful of the allies, of the directly impacted, and how we can mobilize and show up for one another. And yeah, so we have, once again, the chat box is open for any questions and answers that you may have, or questions that you may have. And we have one from Sylvia. She said that the pandemic has made it difficult to volunteer in usual ways. Can anyone recommend ways to connect from home and have a positive impact? And are there online ways to connect to communities in Montgomery County?
Montgomery County has the Volunteer Center. I don't have the website with me, but if somebody could look that up, it's the Montgomery County Volunteer Center. They post volunteer opportunities online, I think daily or weekly. There are a lot of opportunities out there. I do want to make a plug at this moment for the 2020 census. Currently, Montgomery County is at 70.2% self-response rate. If we stop today with the census, we will be short $4.8 billion in the next 10 years. And that money could go towards any kind of emergencies like a pandemic response. It goes towards fire, police, education. It goes towards infrastructure. You know, this is, a lot of people say, well, it's just a census. I don't really need to worry about it. Somebody else could do it. It needs to be done. Everybody needs to do the census. We can't miss out on this money, especially since the county government is hemorrhaging money trying to address COVID-19. We need to replenish our money to fight any kind of issues down the line in the next 10 years. So please talk to your friends, talk to family, tell them to go complete the census. The census is online this year, and you could also do it over the phone. Online, there is, I believe, 10 different languages you could complete it on. Over the phone, they have translator or interpreters for, I think, 100 languages. So please complete the census. That's something that you could definitely do at home. It takes less than 10 minutes to do.
Yes, and also there was some, thank you so much Yi, for saying that. There was also a lot of concerns about your immigrant status in filling out the census. Everybody should be filling out the census. And so we also have frequently asked questions about census on the Gilchrist Immigrant Resource website. I don't know if somebody can put that up as well. That will give you details about who is eligible, who's not. But if you're living here, fill out the census. It is, everybody must get counted. It is so important. And I'd also like to add that voting is so important. Voting rights is so important. This is your right. This is something you own, you have power over. And so encouraging people to find out who are their political representatives and really sign up to vote, and please vote, because it is so important to this conversation that we are having. And of course, you know, there's so much happening right now. Everything is becoming digitalized. Go on Google and search about volunteer opportunities. You can call your county council to advocate for certain issues. You can call the Office of Community Partnerships. I think Yi and the other liaisons are there who represent the county executive. You can call your senator's office. You can call your congressman's office, congresswoman's office, and so much is available right now. Your physical self is not needed. You can be online and make calls and advocate and do just as much.
And as for me, I want to also add that we have been, you know, accepting volunteers and interns online long before the pandemic. So if you feel like you would like to work with us, feel free to reach reach out to us via amalproject.org. I will put the website on the chat box.
Thank you so much. I got a question from Alan. Can you share any examples of coalition building initiatives or cross-community outreach that have been essentially impactful in your perspective?
So for me, my Asian Pacific American Advisory Group, we've had a conversation, and excuse me, what we've discussed was that since COVID-19 started, like I said, there was a high number of cases of hate crimes or hate bias incidents. However, when you look at what media is reporting on, they're only reporting on instances. So on average, there's 100 a day, as I mentioned earlier. But the media only report on maybe 5 or 6 a day with video or with a picture, right? And when they show the person, show these incidents, it's usually an African-American or a Latino that's attacking an Asian community member. And that has given the Asian community a false sense of like insecurity around African-Americans or Latinos. And when they had Black Lives Matter, they're saying, "Oh, look at this Asian store, mom and pop shop. It was looted, right?" But they're not showing that 5 or 6 stores on the side are also damaged or destroyed. So it makes it seem like the African American or the Latino community is only targeting Asians, and the way to address that is to come together, sit down. We need to talk about our differences. We need to talk about our similarities. We need to understand each other. There's a lot of historical tension between Asian community and the African and also Latino community. There's a lot of historical tension between Asian community and the Asian community. There's a lot of historical tension between every single community. We need to come together to have unity to address something together. Let me give you an example of China, right? Again, generation 1.5, I see everything, right? So in China in 2018, Dolce & Gabbana was supposed to have this fashion show in the winter of 2018 in China. However, they made these super racist ads in China, and they just showed it all over Chinese media. And then all the Chinese community were like, "Whoa, what, you're making us look completely idiotic and stupid. These ads are racist." And they all came together to condemn Dolce & Gabbana. Unfortunately, they had like one of the owners go online and start making racist comments about the Asians. So the entire country came together and said, "Nope, we're boycotting everything." So Dolce & Gabbana could not have their fashion show in China that year. And ever since then, their sales in China just keep declining, and it hasn't rebounded yet. So we need to come together to address racism here in this country too. If somebody attacks the African American community, the Asian, the Latino, every single minority community needs to come together and say, "Nope, that's not going to work." If somebody attacked the Muslim community, we all need to come together and say that's not happening. Only when we could do that, then we will be able to have that's how we're going to make sure racism go back underground. Make sure we stamp that out. It's not acceptable in our community. No matter how much our current president makes it seem like it's acceptable, it is not acceptable. We need to we need to bury it, basically. And in order to do that, we need a collective voice. We need a collective group to do this. So.
Thank you so much. We have another question from Andrea. How do we teach ourselves to meet everyone with an open mind? As mentioned by Yi, we change who is the bad group over and over again.
Does anybody want to take this? I don't want to monopolize everything. Like I said, when I was young, my parents were only allowing me to socialize with certain groups, right? The problem is, if I listen to them and I start seeking out books, I start seeking out news, that validate what their assertions are, then I'm building myself on a crooked foundation, right? So I'm going to grow up being extremely racist or some kind of supremacist, right? The only way to dispel any kind of interaction, any kind of misinformation is by interaction, right? You have to meet somebody who is not in your ethnic background. You have to be able to talk with them, learn about them. Every single person is different. I mean, you have to, if you talk to somebody, you learn about their family, you learn about their background, you learn about their culture, you form your own opinion. I went to a high school where I was the only Asian kid. I was almost bullied every day. And if I just went, oh my God, the white people, the Latino, the African Americans are bullying me, so they're all bad people, then I'm applying that to your entire group. But you have to be smart enough to say, well, this is an individual. As a group, you can't base everything on your interaction with one. You have to meet a lot of people over time to be able to dispel any kind of misinformation in your head. And that's the only way that we can learn about each other and know about each other.
If I may take a stab at answering that also. I mean, personally, I try to talk to everybody while recognizing that bias is natural, that I probably have some preconceptions and be okay with that as a way to, before I engage in any conversation, especially with someone or someone from some group that I've never had interactions with in my life. If I had to name one superpower I have, it's the ability to talk to everybody. In my life, I got to talk to actual Nazis with, not with swastikas tattooed on their faces. I got to speak to people who voiced, wanting to kill people like myself, looking like me, or believe what I believe, and it's always helpful to walk in to the conversation recognizing that you probably will have biases, that you will train yourself out of that aha realization that gotcha, you met my expectation, and instead just recognize it and let it go and keep listening. The problem with biases and preconceived notions is that once someone remotely resembles the stereotype we have in mind, we stop listening and we stop actually being active listeners, and we just instead see everything in the light of what we want to see about them. My only advice is, do not say I'm open-minded. Do not have to. You don't have to be open-minded. It's okay to have prejudices as long as you know them, and they don't hold you back from actually being an active listener.
Yeah. So, did you want to ask another question, or?
It's okay. Yeah.
I just wanted to say, so bias is a social construct, right? And we can, as we learn our biases, whether conscious or unconscious, some of them, most of them, we can unlearn. It has to be uncomfortable, and you have to be okay with being uncomfortable. You have to challenge yourself to go into places where you know you would never usually go. Talk to friends, make friends with people who you would usually not make friends with. Be in spaces where you would usually not be, and listen. You cannot presume you know people's stories, because apart from, again, it's a stereotyping, right? Apart from understanding the general concept of a community, even that community is layered and different. The community has different traditions, different religious beliefs, different languages, and the individual themselves have a different opinion about certain things. So you cannot cookie cut. You cannot say, well, if I spoke to Josephine, now I know how all Sierra Leoneans are and I understand the Sierra Leone context. In Sierra Leone alone, which is the smallest country, I know it's as small as South Carolina, we have 14 different tribes. We speak 14 different languages. We have 14 different cultures that are unique to themselves. So I would say, just be open. I understand what Mohamed is saying by not being open-minded, but be open and challenge yourself to the uncomfortable and making the effort. It always takes the first step for you to start this journey for anything to happen. But if you pre-assume you're not going to be able to make it, it's gonna be challenging, you'll never get there. So just trust yourself and trust the process and go into it.
If I may add to that really quickly, my mentor used to always tell me, you have two eyes, 2 ears, and 1 mouth. So you should listen and see twice as much as you say. So if you're going to learn about somebody else, say less and just listen more and see with your own eyes a little bit more. And that's how you actually learn.
Thank you guys so much. And this is our last question, and it's from Vanetta. A lot of Black people are feeling that voting is still not going to change things. They say it's all rigged anyway. What would you say to these people who have this mindset? They were stating this even when President Obama was in the office. What can you say? What can you all say on this matter? Mohamed, Shen, and Josephine.
The ability to be able to say that is a construct of privilege, right? Like if you feel if you feel that comfortable enough to say that, you certainly possess a degree of privilege that you don't have, that I don't have as someone threatened by Muslim ban. And it's always I found it helpful when I encounter people who say those things to remind them that, you know, okay, like if you feel like you can't change things for votes for you, and you have that privilege of vote that you decide to not use it for those who cannot use it instead. An undocumented immigrant doesn't even have the privilege to be able to say, I can't vote, yet they get affected by the result. Me, I personally found myself suddenly banned from the United States shortly after my arrival to the United States, without even knowing what that means. I think reminding people that this is something we do for all of us, for the bigger collective, talk about intersectionality, is always helpful.
So thank you, Mohamed. I really respect the person who asked that question, because the disenfranchisement for Black voters has been incredibly hard. It has been so tough. Everything, every roadblock and every barrier in the past and continues to be put in place for Black voters, for Latino voters not to vote. That in itself should tell people how important their votes are. Do not give up in a system that has taken years and years to provide a democratic process as best as it possibly can. Don't give up. Hard as it is, I think the whole narrative, and we are talking about framing right now, right? So the frame has been put so small to scare us, to say that, you know what, no matter how hard we try, it's not gonna work out. But I am telling you, for the mere fact that they're saying that, it's challenge yourself and vote. Irrelevant of who you vote for, but vote. Do your research, read up, look at history, look at the things you believe in, look at the values you believe in, look at the issues that are important to you, and vote. Because the narrative is to make you feel that there is no light at the end of the tunnel. That whether you like it or not, it's not going to come out right. But believe in the system, because so many lives have been sacrificed and so much has been done. Voting is the most important power that we could hold, that we could have and say, this is ours, and make every effort, no matter what, to do it. Don't give up, because it is so important. And it is so important that that one vote could make or break a country, and believe it and go and do it. Have faith at least in that and give it a try. I would say let us not go into that narrative, because that's the whole point. The whole voter suppression is to make you believe that the system is rigged, that it's not gonna work. But that's the narrative people want us to believe in. And you must challenge that narrative and believe in it, because it has more power. The mere fact that there's so much fear about the African American votes and about the Latino votes means there's power to it. I beg everyone here, please go and vote. And again, I'm not telling you who to vote for. Research what are the truths that you believe in, what are the issues that you find important, and look for the person that is closest to that and vote. Don't give up.
Thank you so much. Oh, Josephine, that was very inspiring and motivating. At least I know, Mohamed, you touched base on, undocumented individuals don't have the privilege to vote, and disenfranchised groups and such as newly released folks from jail and everything. We have to acknowledge how important it is. And I just like to thank everyone in this panel to be being able to share their experiences and how they're changing their communities. And thank you guys all for being here and asking these questions. I'm going to turn it over to Kevin and Isaac to close us off.
Hey, so thank you so much to our amazing panelists. We just wanted to end this specific conversation by bringing different members of our planning committee back up and just kind of frame where we go next, right? We just talked about turning anger into action for the past 5 weeks. It feels like just yesterday that we kind of started, and now 5 weeks have gone by, but our goal is to really have takeaways from this, right? And have actionable things that you all can do next. And we hope we've provided that for you all. And somebody in the comments just asked, how can we support Brothers with Books? And it's funny, Kevin and I want to be very clear about something. Any moment that you support an organization that is passionate about the very things that Brothers with Books is passionate about, you're supporting us. Support Brothers with Books by donating to other organizations and institutions that are focused on the anti-racism movement, that are focused on promoting access in our community. You do not just have to donate to us, although we are happy and always ready to accept those donations, but know that when you donate to Amel, when you donate to Sandy Spring, when you donate to the Hub, when you donate to United We Dream, you donate to us. And that is coalition building. That is sacrificing your own organization's movement or whatever, and understanding that we are all in this together. So, you know, I want to just say thank you, not just to the panelists, amazing panelists we had tonight, but from the very, very, very beginning, to Kara, Megan, to our chief of police, to so many other amazing panelists that we've had, right? Thank you so much, Kevin.
Yeah, no, it's been an amazing 5 weeks. Like I couldn't even imagine how great this was going to be, and it ended up well past my expectations. Just thank you to all the all-stars that we had. I mean, it's been an amazing group of panelists, not only today, but for the past 5 weeks. Thank you today, everyone, for your time. I know with everything going on, schedules are really, really hectic. So we truly do appreciate everybody watching and everybody here talking and discussing these issues with us. We're just hoping for change. And another way that you can support Brothers with Books is just analyzing your everyday lives and making sure that what you're doing is being intentional with what you're doing, thinking about other people. So, because what you do doesn't just affect just you. Like we are a community, and that's what Brothers with Books stands for. So just your heart and your mindset. So
yeah, and please, I guess our biggest support or call to action is help Brothers of Books no longer exist in the capacity that we exist in. In 5 years, 10 years, we want to look back and say, wow, literacy in our county has increased. Access in our community is a real thing. And we're actually all fighting for equity. So Kevin and I don't want to have another panel discussion with you all in 10 years and be doing the same exact thing. We want Brothers of Book to be doing something else. So we're going to turn it over to Lauren and then Alan and just wrap it up.
thank you.
Thank you.
I'm actually going to have Alan talk first. Alan, if you want to jump back on.
Well, I don't have much more to add to what Kevin and Isaac just said, other than to thank both of them. Really, the engines behind this program, and just did an incredible job pulling this together and getting this really providing this to our community. If anyone has any thoughts or ideas about additional topics or issues or activities that we as a local community can do around social or racial justice issues, please feel free to reach out to me at any time at the Hub for Culture and Democracy, certainly to Lauren and others at the museum. And with that, I'll turn it over to you. Thanks again, everyone.
Okay, and to reiterate what everybody has said here tonight, thank you all for joining us. It has been a very rewarding and enriching 5 weeks here with all of our panelists. I encourage you to stay tuned, because I mentioned at the beginning of tonight's session that this is not the end. There will be more programming coming your way. So keep an eye out for emails from Sandy Spring Museum inviting you to future programming. In the meantime, check out our programs and events calendar. We have some history happy hour virtual programming coming up, as well as a new all outdoor exhibit that is social distance friendly that opens next week. So you're welcome to visit the museum, even though the building will be closed. You're welcome to walk the grounds on our 7 acres and take a look at the sculptures that are going to be placed around. We will follow up with an email tomorrow. There were several resources that were dropped in the chat this evening. So you'll receive an email tomorrow with those, and keep an eye out for the recording to share with your family and friends. Thank you all for sticking around through the technical difficulties we were having this evening, and we very much look forward to seeing you all in the future.